And we're joined now by Bill Koch talking Red Sox. Bill from the Providence Journal. And all right, so they had the walk-off win Friday, and then the pitching not so great yesterday and today. 18 runs today. Do you just chalk this up as a tough outing, or is there cause for concern with this staff right now?
When your best pitcher is Marwin Gonzalez, it's generally not a good day. You look at the starting pitching, Yianni, in June, a 6.26 ERA. That's 2 runs higher than in May. It's 3 runs higher than in April. So you're looking at a rotation that's having a bit of a hard time right now, and Toronto is not the offense to struggle against. A lot of good bats in that lineup.
Now, this coincides with Major League Baseball cracking down on pitchers using foreign substances to gain an advantage. Alex Cora was asked post-game about it. Obviously, he said there is no correlation. Do you think there is one, not only with the Red Sox throughout baseball, and for a pitching staff that was uncharacteristically good, or maybe better than people thought early in this season, if they're cutting off the nonsense now, is this sort of what they are?
If you look at their spin rates in June, since MLB announced this crackdown, their spin rates are relatively the same compared to what they were early in the season. So from that perspective, foreign substances aren't helping them get a better grip on the ball, aren't necessarily helping them spin the ball more. You might say it's more of a regression to the mean. As you said, Yianni, it feels like these guys have overachieved from the start, and maybe now they're just getting exposed a little bit, particularly against offenses like Houston and Toronto, who are 2 of the best in baseball.
Let's stick with the pitchers. So good to hear and see Chris Sale pitching over the last week. Coming back from Tommy John, he's a year plus out from that surgery. What is, I know they're not committing to a date, in your estimation, when do we see him again, and what Chris Sale do we see?
I feel like it's sometime in August, Yianni. I guessed August 1st before the start of the year. I felt like that was a reasonable goal if he didn't have any more setbacks. And I think that they're going to build him up to be a starter. I certainly think you've seen through this last turn plus, through the rotation, the need for an extra arm. They don't necessarily have an ace. They have guys who can be good, competent starting pitchers at times, whether it's Nathan Eovaldi or Nick Pivetta or Eduardo Rodriguez when he's right. Garrett Richards occasionally shows really good stuff. But Chris Sale is a cut above those guys, maybe 2 cuts above. And so certainly you'd want to bring him back, build him up properly as a starting pitcher again.
All right, so Tampa Bay now is sort of comfortably in first place. Obviously, the Red Sox ahead of Toronto and New York. Right now, if the season ended, they would make the playoffs as a wild card team. Do you see the Red Sox hanging in there as a playoff contender into September?
The schedule is going to lighten up going into next weekend when they visit Kansas City. So I certainly think that they'll be able to pull out of this. They're in a rough stretch right now playing against teams who were in the postseason last year and playing some really good offenses. But you would certainly think that the Red Sox bats would be able to carry them a little bit. Xander Bogaerts is hot again. Rafael Devers and J.D. Martinez have been right there with him. Alex Verdugo has looked good in the second spot ahead of those 3. And so you think that, when Boston starts to face some teams that are a little bit down in the standings, who don't necessarily have pitching staffs like Houston does, you feel like they'll be able to get back on track, maybe tread water to the point where they get to the deadline and possibly make a move to strengthen.
Yeah, we'll be looking at that deadline closely. Last one. With how well Xander Bogaerts is playing this year, we know the Red Sox smartly signed him to a long-term deal prior to his initial contract being up. But he does have an opt-out. How do you see this playing out in a situation where God knows the Sox can't let another cornerstone piece walk out of here like Mookie Betts?
Well, thankfully, they have a year and a half to discuss that. His opt-out doesn't come until after 2022. But I certainly would expect him to exercise that. If you look at the deals signed by Francisco Lindor and Fernando Tatis Jr., they've reset the shortstop market in terms of average annual value and total compensation. You've got a really strong free agent class this offseason coming up with Trevor Story, Javier Baez, Carlos Correa, Corey Seager. You're going to see those guys further reset that market. And so I certainly think that Xander Bogaerts will be badly underpaid by the time he reaches the end of 2022. And I certainly think that he'll put his services up for bid again.
Hopefully the Red Sox can pony up the money for his services. All right, Bill Koch of the Providence Journal, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your Red Sox coverage, and we'll talk again soon.
Anytime, Yianni. Thank you.